Justin Botillier, CEO of Kalex CPA in Medford, Oregon. Um, the weather is getting cooler. The trees are starting to change colors, and which means it's time to think about 1099s, 8300s, and then also considering to file one of these things that I don't talk about often, but I'm going to, is the FBar, in case you have are signers or have possession of foreign accounts, which the IRS and the other federal authorities are cracking down on in terms of trying to shelter income and other accounts from potentially being taxable on income that those accounts generate. So it's something that I won't spend a lot of time on, but just wanting to remind you that it is something. So you do need to take it into consideration. But for now, what I'm going to talk to you about is 1099 miscellaneous and 1099 NEC, or non-employee compensation forms. Now, if you're new to business, this may be new to you, but for most people, it's not anything new. Uh, it used to be that 1099 miscellaneous and 1099 NECs were combined, but they have changed. They have since broken it out because they are very much two different things that are happening. And so it makes sense that they separated them, because a lot of times they were being done incorrectly, and people were being audited, or at least there was an inquiry for why they had 1099, essentially non-employee compensation, when they actually had some other form of income that was reported incorrectly. So in order to keep things clear, they separated 1099 non-employee compensation from 1099 miscellaneous. So 1099, the main one that you probably will be filing is a 1099 NEC, and that is for anybody who provided $600 or more of personal services to your business. If you hired a janitorial company, or a landscaper, or especially if you had subcontractors, say like you had some sort of service provider that you were subcontracting work out to, they would definitely get a 1099. In, say, like the cannabis industry, for example, people who were hired as independent contractors for trimming services, for packaging and value-added services, for farm work, those kinds of things all would require a 1099 if they've received more than $600. In the medical arena and the psilocybin arena, which is rolling out this year, facilitators. If you hired a facilitator, received cash on behalf of a person receiving the services of a facilitator, and you paid them as an independent contractor, you would need to file a 1099 NEC. It's important that you do that, because otherwise the IRS could come back and say that they'll disallow your deduction, or potentially try to recategorize your deduction as payroll, and then ask for that you pay Social Security and Medicare tax on that. Speaking of employee versus independent contractor, just touching on that, be very careful that you aren't treating your employees like they are independent contractors if they aren't fully understanding what the relationship is with the business, and you attempt to pay them as independent contractors versus employees. There's some confusion that can arise, namely when they file their tax returns and they owe taxes, because there was none of it taken into consideration while they were working for your company. They may go and complain to the employment department, or bully, or to the federal authorities, that they were supposed to be employees, but you didn't treat them as employees. And then then the federal authorities can come back and say, like, hey, you need to now pay these guys as if they're employees, and also pay FICA, like back taxes for the payroll taxes that are associated. So that's just a word of caution when you're determining whether or not these individuals should be considered independent contractors versus employees, or should they also be receiving 1099 NEC. And then again, for the most part, if you understand the difference between that, then they will likely need to receive an 1099 NEC. Some rules of thumbs just to help people stay on top of this kind of thing. I always recommend if you have a new provider and it's ambiguous whether or not they're going to need to get a 1099 NEC, then you just go ahead and send them what's called a W-9 form. So you look up W-9 form, you send them a W-9 form and you say, hey, before we pay you, we would like to get this W-9 information so that it's on hand at the end of the year so that you can then file the 1099s. Some other, there are some exempt organizations. So when you receive the W-9 back with the vendor's information, it may have that they're a nonprofit organization or a C corporation or S corporation. Those are exempt from receiving 1099s. I don't know how long they will be exempt. I know the IRS has been trying to expand the requirement for filing 1099 NEC to practically all income, including merchant services and those kinds of things you'll receive. Sometimes if you receive payment via merchant services, you're going to get a 1099K, and that is just another way for companies to report, or the IRS to collect data on you. I think that there's some exempt, like legal fees, but otherwise, anybody who's doing personal services, you're going to need to do this kind of thing. And if you don't know if they're an S corp or a C corporation, if they're an just a plain old LLC, then go ahead and send them a W-9 and make sure that they are providing that information so that you can then prepare these 1099s at the end of the year. So for our clients, we will do 1099 miscellaneous, 1099 NEC for our clients if they are also bookkeeping clients of ours. But if you're not engaged with us for bookkeeping, then we don't have capacity to do 1099s for everybody. So this is what this video is about, is to help you know what you need to do. I highly recommend a software called 1099, or it was formerly Track 1099. Now it's Avalara 1099. They are a big kind of a miscellaneous forms sales company that will provide these like kind of miscellaneous tax filing forms for state sales taxes and those kinds of things. Avalara is a decent company. I think it might have been bought by our corporate overlords, Intuit, because Intuit buys all accounting related software, and now and is becoming like an accounting software superpower, which I don't like, but we're beholden to it. So here it is. They know all of the best software out there. Track 1099, I've been referring this business for like 10 years since it started, and it has proven to continue to be the best. So you just need to start an account if you don't have one already. You take your W-9 information, you put it in there. It's going to ask you what type of income it is. Is it rent? Is it royalties? Is it interest? And it's what you paid to these vendors. Did you pay somebody interest? Then you would need to potentially file a 1099. Did you pay a landlord rent? Then you need to file what's called a 1099 miscellaneous. Did you pay somebody for personal services? You file a 1099 NEC. And so that's where you're going to do it, is this software right here, Track 1099. What's nice about Track 1099 is you put the information in once. I believe it saves it for the future. All you need to know is how much did you pay them. That should be, if you're doing good bookkeeping, you should be able to figure out what you paid your independent contractors. And you pop that in there, and then it will e-file it to the IRS, and it will also send a 1099 to the vendor, thus putting you in compliance. Those are all due by the end of January. So you need to start collecting the W-9 information now. And if you haven't done your bookkeeping, you need to get your bookkeeping going now for the end of the year. I think that's about it for those. The other nice thing about Track 99 is if there's a compatible or a comparable state reporting requirement, they have ways for you to export the proper the CSV file, etc., that can then just be uploaded into the state. So the state has a requirement. Oregon has a requirement and that's the state that we're in, a requirement that you also provide that information to the state database. So Track 99 should, if it hasn't changed, give you the opportunity to upload that information into the state software as well. Okay. Other things to think about is 8300s. I just want to remind everybody that if you don't have banking, and you may be doing a lot in cash, you are required to file what's called an 8300 for any transaction that in a combined total equals $10,000 or more. So if you have somebody who buys your product and they pay over $10,000, you have to fill one of these out in order to, and then you have to report it. It's called an 8300. It's fairly cumbersome. It's got a lot of information. It asks for a lot of information. It asks for information from the person who delivered the cash to you, as well as your own information. So you have to, when somebody delivers you cash, in order to stay in compliance with this 8300 requirement, you need to ask for the information from the person who delivered it to you, which is crazy, but that's what they're saying. So I'm just letting you know what you need to do. It wants to know the person on whose behalf this transaction was conducted. It's going to have your information, but it's going to be the person who gave you that. And then business that received the cash. Oh, identity of individual from whom the cash was received. So I guess that's a person on whose behalf this transaction was conducted. So this is where the business goes. So the person who dropped off the cash, the company that received, or the company who paid the cash, that's where that goes. And then the business that received the cash. It's far more complicated than the 1099 rules, but yet they want it. Fortunately, there is a way to file these online through this BSA e-filing system. You go here. If you haven't created an account, you create an account, and then you can file those online. And I believe they also save the information, so you're not always having to re-enter information. So you got to get that 8300 form, the information off the 8300 form regarding the business that's paying you. And if you don't necessarily include the information from the person that is, well, I think you have to at least have a name and a social potentially from your customer, but then it could be the owner of the business, and then the business information goes there. I haven't heard any horror stories about not filing 8300. I know that in the past, the IRS has targeted people. If you get audited, they may make it an issue. If you don't have banking, they might say like, hey, where's your 8300 forms? You know, this kind of thing. Like if you are receiving cash. So I'm just giving you a heads up that that's another requirement for cash intensive businesses. Finally, the thing that, I wanted to point out was the FinCEN or the FBar. This has been around for now quite a while, but you do need to, if you have accounts that have money over $5,000 that are foreign, then you need to report those to the what they call FinCEN. I don't know what they all stand for, but I'm throwing that out there just so that we don't get in trouble for not having told you that if you have a foreign account, you are required to fill out what's called an FBar. And you can do that at this website, which I will include in an email through a email blast. Some of the things that that's about it. Some of the things that I would say, questions that I get asked are, what if they don't want to give me their information? That's probably the biggest one. What if they don't want to fill out a W-9? They don't want to give me the information. That is fine. Do the best that you can to fill out 1099 NECs or 1099 miscellaneous or 8300s with the information that you have. You will probably try to file it. If it doesn't let you file it, at least you made the attempt. For 1099 miscellaneous, if you and 1099 NECs, the IRS may come back and ask you, hey, they might tell you that you didn't complete, that the information's not complete. It's okay. You're not going to get penalized if the information is not complete. However, the IRS will definitely not want you to be working with those people again. So if you get a customer, and cash is king. So if they don't refuse to give you, if they refuse to give you your information and you're accepting and you need to make the sales, it's understandable that you might go ahead and make the sale without filing the 8300, but you are putting yourself at risk. Now, the first time that happens and they give you money and they say like, screw you, I'm not going to give you any information, they expect you to not work with those people again. They will probably give you a pass on that, but they're not going to let you do that again. Okay. Same with 1099 miscellaneous, 1099 NEC. You may have paid a vendor once for projects or for a year, but when it comes time to give you the information to file those 1099s, they may not give them to you. The IRS may give you a pass the first year, but the second year, they're not going to give you a pass anymore because you know that you're supposed to be filing these. So that's all I have. Justin Botillier, CEO of Calix CPA. Look us up if you have any more questions. Have a good day.